Corporation. 2019 marks the 110th anniversary of China's aviation industry. To celebrate that day, the cradle of Chinese aviation, the so-called Shenyang Aircraft, presents this carnival. Many primary and secondary school students and lovers of aviation are here for this carnival themed under aviation. So today we are going to be on this journey together. There will be some professional knowledge. So we have invited Professor Liu from Shenyang Aircraft Corporation. Hello, Mr. Liu. This is our second time to meet, but please say hi to our viewers. Dear viewers of CCTV, today it's an autumn day, and also this is one day to commemorate. On the same day of 1909, that was the beginning of the history of Chinese aviation. So today marks the 110th anniversary. So he seems quite excited about the anniversary. We will learn more about the aviation history of China. Why 2019 marks 110th anniversary of Chinese aviation? What is the history? So here in this expo, we will see some pictures. This one is a historical person, Feng Ru. His photo was the first one in this expo because he was the earliest airplane designer and a pilot in China. That was something. This photo is also a milestone. It says, on September 21st, 1909. That was exactly 110 years ago. And on that day, Feng Ru successfully designed the first Chinese airplane. So I hope we could remember that date. Mr. Liu, about Feng Ru. Because of that date 110 years ago, when Feng Ru designed the earliest Chinese airplane, that's why today is the 110th anniversary. Exactly. What is the beginning year of Chinese aviation industry? That was September 21st, 1909. Why so? Because on that day, in the Auckland of the US, one Guangdong native named Feng Ru independently designed and manufactured the airplane. He called it Feng Ru No. 1 airplane, and it was successfully flying into the air in the US. That was quite something to celebrate. If you look at the timeline, on September 21st, 1909, that was a day that Feng Ru made something. And the US newspapers covered the story, thinking high of that Chinese man. And they called Mr. Feng Ru the father of Chinese aviation. And that first plane had a successful trial flight, yes. And then, 1 year later, Feng Ru designed a more advanced airplane. That second airplane won an aviation competition in the US. It broke the history because of the height and the speed. And it triumphed over all the other airplanes on that US show. So, in that year, all the media groups were covering the story of that airplane. the record-breaking airplane. That was the second product of Feng Ru, yes. So all governments thought that Feng Ru was quite a young, successful man. He was only 25 years old after all, so they all wanted to hire Mr. Feng Ru to be a designer, but he refused. He wanted to take back all the equipment back to China and return to his motherland. Then he came back to China and kept on his research of his series of airplanes, all in good quality. And then in Guangdong province, he wanted to push forward Chinese aviation. In 1912, the 28-year-old young man had an accident and he sacrificed himself. That was 1912. One flight accident was quite a tragedy. So his story was a lesson for Chinese. As to scientific research and the technologies, the Chinese do have our wisdom and position. At the crossroad of the new century, in the aviation industry, we shall keep up the spirit and our mission. The first trial flight was in 1909. Feng Ru was only 25 years old, and 3 years later, he died at the year of 28. He sacrificed his life too early, and he was quite a patriotic person. He dedicated himself to aviation. So in the past 110 years of history of aviation in China, many aviation personnel have been dedicating themselves with their perspiration and even their lives to come to today. The Chinese people is a diligent and industrious nationality. There have always been many Chinese who are willing to sacrifice themselves to the nation. It was told that there was a man named Cui who wanted to realize the aviation dream of China. He said, the gunpowder and kites can fly into the sky. Why not us? If we can solve the issue of dynamics, we can certainly fly to the sky. So he wanted to realize this dream in the hope that one day it will be a reality for China. One night, he bundled himself to a chair and he asked his men to attach 21 gunpowder, and he did fly into the sky. But then, because of the lack of dynamics, he landed on one mountain and the flight was over. Another story about a figure who can be said as a hero. His name is Luo Yang. You must have heard of him. On the board it says, we must be a solid Chinese person just like Luo Yang. The story of Luo Yang is the pride of Shenyang Aircraft, as well as a regret. Could you give us more introduction of the story? We shall really pay tribute to our hero. General Manager Luo Yang worked day and night for aviation. He was exhausting himself for his work. But he laid the foundation for the fighter jets. When the fighter jet was landing, he actually was behind the scene. One of his ideas was to honor his responsibility. He wanted to load himself with all he got. And finally, his fighter jet met the national requirement and he completed his mission. Almost every day, he was swamped, and every minute counts for him. He will always have something to do or something planned every minute. After all, there was a sensational news. Many people were following that event. It caught the attention of China and the world. So this person did contribute greatly to this event, even though when his body was exhausted. His sister actually was a cardio expert, but he didn't have the time to have an examination. He had very tight schedule every day. There was a saying that such a spirit can be seen for many Chinese when they set aside their own family affairs to contribute to the nation. Many Chinese staff, scientists, cages, and others in every circles of lives gathered their efforts together so as to bring about so advanced technologies in China. Without those people's dedication, we cannot have such great achievements. And now we are seeing the ceremony. Those people are lining to pay tribute to the heroes, and we want to thank the heroes as well. Now we are seeing the carnival live, and we are hearing the songs of the children coming to us. Primary school students from the Shenyang city and the lovers of aviation and aircraft are coming here to celebrate this day. This is like a festival for Shenyang people. 50 kids from the primary school are here, and also the provincial Communist Youth League personnel are here presenting their show. Just now, 4 minutes ago, those people with their special way were counting down. September 21st. I hope through today's show you could remember this day. It's the beginning day of Chinese aviation. Also, this year marks the 70th anniversary of the PRC. So by singing the anthems, we are actually singing out our joy. Today we have invited the Deputy Party Secretary of Shenyang Aircraft. Hello everyone. Could you introduce to us about your arrangement of this celebration? This celebration was to commemorate the same day 110 years ago when Mr. Feng designed the first Chinese airplane. So today, we invited 50 primary school students and 200 crew members to form such a square to celebrate the same date 110 years ago. The national flag is right in front of us. We feel very excited. And since we're very close to the October 1st, we're using this ceremony to also celebrate the 70th anniversary of PRC. People from all circles of lives are joining this celebration, right? Yes, we also have commentators and the drone shows and also the exhibition to offer rich contents of Chinese aviation history for the civilians. People may find themselves in love with aviation because of this day. There must be some special performances, like the airplane models, the flights. Yes, there will be 2 songs by the primary school students. They have prepared carefully to show their love for aviation. Thank you. People are expressing their joy through different ways. This day must be very special for you guys. As is known to all, September 21st is like our festival. People like us love the Chinese nation and the aviation industry. At this moment, we exhibit this show to stimulate the passion for Chinese aviation. And then we can build China into a strong nation of aviation. We have made a national flag, 9 meters long and 20 meters wide, to express our enthusiasm. There are retirees from our corporation, the incumbent leaders, the commentators, and primary school students all present here. They came here happily to witness this anniversary day. With our true actions and performances, we're showing our passion. You mentioned about building China into a strong nation of aviation. On our land area of 9.6 million square meters, we have a vast space and we have strong national defense. Starting from 1840 till now, China had relative peace above the ocean and on the land and in the air. That's because partly of Chinese aviation industry. So for China to go stronger, aviation must keep up. Yes, it signifies how China emerges. And as we have introduced, your corporation is called the cradle. Why? In the past, China couldn't even manufacture one automotive. But since 1956, with about 156 projects, China Shenyang Aircraft Corporation became the cradle of the fighter jets. For example, now we are seeing so many fighter jets landing here, parked here. They were all produced by our corporation. If you look over there, you will see that those fighter jets symbolized the history of China, of how China became stronger. When the first jet was successfully flying in China, China kept making breakthroughs. In 1956, right after the October 1st, many independently produced Chinese airplanes flew over the Tiananmen Square. Chairman Mao used to write that in the past, Chinese didn't have our own airplanes, but that was history now. Now we can look up and see the Chinese airplane flying by. We are very proud. And starting from now, all sorts of airplanes will be produced here in China. Because of today's activity, many Shenyang civilians will tour the exhibition and have a first-hand experience of all generations of the fighter jets. Shenyang Aircraft Corporation is the cradle of fighter jets. Those fighter jets are different series and they belong to different years. Now we are seeing 7 fighter jets. They must be typical of their era. Could you introduce to us about their own story? A red ribbon was attached to each airplane. So those fighter jets must have their own stories. Yes. For example, this one. For this fighter jet, it's number 5. On the body, there was such a number, 65 and 604. It means it had its first successful flight on June the 4th, 1965. That was the date of its first successful flight. For this fighter jet, if we compare with the one next to it, they look quite similar, but in the front end, it's a little bit different. It's the Series 5 of jet fighters. It will target the tanks on the land. It will fly very low to the land, but it has strong force to destroy the targets. So we call it Qiang 5 series. We call this type of airplane the aerial tank. The enemies cannot hit it, but the airplane can easily hit the target. There will be better ones than this one. This airplane used to be very famous. Why? Because it was quite painstaking to manufacture this airplane. Ever since it's successfully manufactured and designed, no one of this series has been damaged in actual battlefield, and it hits 23 other planes in the fights. So this airplane used to contribute greatly to boosting the fighting strength of the whole army, making this airplane a hero. So it is also independently developed by Chinese. We imitated one airplane series from the former Soviet Union. We used to have success in designing such airplanes. And the Chinese have been very passionate about producing more, particularly the speedy airplanes flying high above the land. So we then focused on the research and designing of the airplanes, particularly the speedy ones. This airplane can carry 210 missiles. And in the aerial fight, this airplane suited the need of the battlefield because it was very fast and it was strong. When we discovered the target, if we shoot too early, we may fail. But for this airplane, when the enemy is flying, we will not follow it and chase after it. Instead, we face them head to head. When the distance is 300 meters, it should be very dangerous, but this airplane can directly shoot it. When the distance is as close as 150 meters close, this airplane can shoot out 3 missiles altogether, directly hitting the target. So this airplane was quite successful. And also the pilots flying this airplane was brave enough to face the enemy in short distance. For the jet fighter, we received some questions from the viewers. Among all the jet fighters, are there any bombers? There are different types of airplanes. It's like a big family. Some has a name of J, like a J5, J6, 7, 8. What is the meaning of J? J refers to jet fighter, and the J series is specifically used for the aerial fights. When the enemy airplanes are coming close, the J series will fly up and hit the targets. So there will be some gunpowder carried on the airplanes. Even the missiles. So those airplanes are like the pioneers of the whole family members. The other type are bombers. When there are big targets or the blockhouses and forts, we will send out the bombers to destroy them. And the bombers will certainly carry missiles. When there are naval battles, such bombers would be good helps. And the other series is the Qiang series. The Qiang series will fly in the air and hit the tanks or the armies on the land. Another series named Zhi series. And the name of Zhi refers to helicopter. There will be propellers and the gunpowders on the helicopters. Another series is called the Yun series. They're for transportation. They may be in need of carrying the disaster relief materials, and that would be the task of the Yun series to transport, like the Yun 7 and 8 airplanes. So we have a clear division of the big family. They have different functionalities. For those viewers who come late for the show, now we are at the expo of Shenyang Aircraft Corporation, which is the cradle of jet fighters in China. It's September 21st, marking the 110th anniversary of Chinese aviation. So there is this carnival to celebrate. Many enthusiasts of Chinese aviation, including primary school students, are here giving their performances. Our viewers may be wondering, if I want to have such close watch of this exhibition, how? We welcome you to come here. One question from the viewers. They used a metaphor to describe the front end of the airplanes as a long nose. Basically, every one of the aircraft has such a long nose. What's the use of it? I guess our viewers are really liking our airplanes. Those long noses have a special professional name. They are called airspeed head. This airspeed head will try to identify the speed of the flight, the height, and then the pilot will have a clear idea about the speed and the height. In the aerial battles, sometimes the jets may need to refill. What is the status of the jet? The head will also come to help. That's quite a jargon, airspeed head. And every jet has such a head. Its main functionality is to tell the information of the airplane and then refer the information to the pilots. Those heads are wearing the red flowers. That's because we honor this airspeed head. It's like a technological product. It represents the comprehensive strength of Chinese fighter jets. In the past, China didn't have our independent airplane. But after years of toil, the designers have carefully manufactured all the parts of airplanes with high technology essence. So it's quite a valuable part. Compared to the whole body, this nose is a very small part, but it has very high input of technologies. And certainly it will come along with high technological requirements from the technicians and designers. Mr. Liu will introduce to us an academician who is the chief designer of J8. J8 was independently developed by China. It can fly at high speed and at high altitude. In the research process, the designers have made a lot of efforts. There were some uncharted areas for the designers. For example, the shaking of the airplanes in flight. Just like when the vehicles are driving on the bumpy road. If the airplane is shaking during a battle, it's very dangerous. But why the shaking? Our designers decided to fly in the airplane to experience. For a 50-year-old man to fly in the airplane for the experience is beyond our imagination. It was quite dangerous. There may be so many uncertainties in the air. Mr. Lu Mingdong of that pilot flight said, "I will fly J6, and you can sit in the cockpit for observation." How to observe the shaking? They attached the woolen yarns in the airplane, and when the airplane is shaking, they will observe the changes of those yarns. Usually when it's flying steadily, those woolen yarns would have a pattern. When the airplane is at certain high altitude, they're sweating. In such a physical condition at high altitude, they have to suffer from the discomfort. They took notes to observe the changes of the movement of the woolen yarns, and they have flight for more than once. When the plane was firstly produced, there were many uncertainties. Even though we have several inspection rounds, the risks remain. So when the pilot was flying J8, there was some sudden event, like sudden parking in the air. Imagine that the engine went out for one automobile and it grounded to a halt. It's quite dangerous. And then imagine it's an airplane and it suddenly stopped in the air. It shot up and down. What next? We must have full preparation for such events. That's why we needed data. When the danger happened, the pilot was informed to quit the airplane, but he didn't. He thought he must save this jet fighter. After all, those airplanes were designed with the contribution of so many people. So he didn't quit the jet fighter. He dragged the jet up and re-triggered the engine. The first try was a failure, and then he lit again the engine. Still, no response. And then he was in quite a dangerous situation. The question for him was to save himself or the airplane. He set aside his own life, and he succeeded in saving the jet fighter. That was a critical moment. Without such a spirit of sacrifice, people can never do it. But those pilots had strong mentality, and they saved that jet finally. People applauded for the pilot, for his heroic behavior. It's a really touching story. The history is usually more touching than even the movies. I cannot help it with my tears. In the process of developing so many high-technology products, many people sacrificed and put themselves in danger. We truly want to honor those people who never give up, with strong mentality and strong skills, to finally develop J8 series. All breakthroughs were hard-won, so we want to give our thanks and tribute to those heroes. Not just that. There were a lot of stories. For example, General Manager Xu Huangang, Li Fangyong, Gu Jianman, and others. Their names are shining. J8 was independently by China. It can fly at high speed and high altitude. So it must be a milestone. As you know, in South China Sea, many islands haven't been returned to China. So we have to have stronger national defense in the air. We must be able to have such jets which can have long-distance accurate analysis to safeguard the islands in South China Sea. After all, we cannot land on those islands. They must be able to function long distance. Is there any breakthrough? Yes, the unprecedented speed. Usually, the extreme speed is 1.4, but for this one, it could hit the extreme speed of 1.7. And for J8, it's 2.23. That's a very important breakthrough. And also it can carry heavy loads of gunpowder. And also it can refuel in the air. It could be like a refueling station. When it flies at certain altitude, if it needs to refuel, it's no problem. So when we fly long distance to the South China Sea with the refueling technologies, we can certainly keep up the battle. This is called J8 second. Compared to J8, this second version has been upgraded. The J8 was larger than the previous generations. And on this J8 second version, there was such a control system below the body. There are changes. For example, this small door. This is for the inlet of the airflow. The previous generations had a limited area for the inflow of air. But now, we can enlarge the space for air inflow. And the place of air inflow was changed from the front end to this door. And this is another door for air inflow. That meets the flight needs. And for the wings, usually the planes don't have such small wings. They have just two big wings on both sides and the end wing. But now we add such small wings on the sides for better control. The third or fourth generation, like J10, have such similar small wings. We call it the duck wings. Like the wings of the ducks, they are very small wings. But they can greatly boost the efficiency of control. So making the future possible aerial flight more convenient and efficient. That's a step forward. And below the body, these two are also part of the control system. What is the functionality? This is the radar system. It's very big. The radar system can have a larger range of search. So the radar system needs some supplementary devices. That's why we have this control system. It's quite similar to the heads we have seen. It can give feedback about the searching results. Those parts better support the performance of the airplane. So for J8 to second, it's really a big step forward for technologies. China has been stronger in technologies. For the maritime battle or aerial battles in China in the future, we have tailor-made those airplanes for those future battles. And also, we fully consider the technology conditions in China to upgrade those fighter jets, making those fighter jets more efficient weapons. From the outside, they may be just a small change of the equipment, but behind it, many aviation staff have been making great efforts. I used to interview one engineer called Feng Ru, and according to him, in the field of airplane development, many parts have been handmade. That's true. The production of airplanes is a showcase of our overall strength, not just technology improvement, but more importantly, the accuracy of the manual work, the craftsmanship. It has high requirement of the technical skills of our engineers. So those handmade parts must be more accurate than machines. Yes, we may have to do the measurement or speed control or measure the coordinates. For some small parts, like those ones, what is the function? This is the undercarriage. When a jet is landing, there will be strong force, so we need a buffer. With this undercarriage, we can avoid the bumping. It's like a cushion. There are some connection devices allowing the undercarriage to change, making it more flexible. And then when it's expanding, we need such joints to enable the expansion, and that needs manual work. Some machines cannot be that accurate about the stretching. That's why we need the manual work. And also, when it comes to the details, like the arc part, they also need the manual work. For example, this part is done manually. They need perfect cutting. That is to say, machines can do a large part of the job. For the details and some important parts of the jets, we still need the manual work. I was informed that the textbook may have their requirements, but the real accuracy he can realize could be 1 per 100,000. That's like a miracle. Many people like Feng Ru made achievements of Chinese aviation. Without those people, we cannot have come such a long way. In the years, many staff and engineers have been given their wisdom and efforts to improve the comprehensive strength. From those people, we have seen great steps forward through different trials and experiments, giving us better platforms for the fighter jets. Those people were quite patriotic. They paid a lot. Patriotism is a source of power. Including the staff members in the factories manufacturing the airplanes. Some of them persisted on their posts even when they're ill. That's because of patriotism. Patriotism is a power source. It's our initial mission. It's a special bond. Because of that, we have a direction of fighting. Today we heard a lot of stories, and we want to further spread the stories to more people, so that more people would love this undertaking and are willing to explore the air. Many kids are here today. It's a rare opportunity to have a close contact with the jets. Maybe today we are already sowing the seeds in the hearts of the kids. Now we are seeing a competition. Many 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds are joining this competition. It's about a flying competition for the four rotors airplane. There are some obstacles, like the poles. There will be some requirements, for example, through certain ways of flight and at certain speed. They will have to avoid the obstacles. Those primary school kids have heavy homework, but still from such practices they can learn a lot about aviation. And more importantly, such experience may ignite their love for aviation. The competition is about to be on very soon. Let's see how those kids will pilot their planes. They have to avoid number 1 flag and fly in an S shape. Firstly, pass by the blue flag and then the 2 red flags. They have to fly in S shape. We have invited a staff member for this competition. Good morning, our CCTV viewers. How many kids are joining this show? Over 30. How old are they? Mostly primary school and secondary school kids, the youngest one being only 5-year-old, not even in school yet. Why are they learning piloting so young? We have certain courses. We have a pilot course in our corporation, and the Industrial Association will offer the training for the kids. Are kids interested? Very much. Let's wait a second. Number 14 kid is ready for the flight. How enthusiastic are the kids? Many kids have been through our training. After the class, the kids didn't even want to go back home. They want to stay here for more. The training will help the kids to train their coordination ability of their brains and their hands. They're very happy in every course, and kids exclaim that even I've taken so many classes, I'm still very happy. That's truly the spirit of putting education in playing. People get happiness from such teaching. So, in one round, there will be two kids competing against each other. And how are we selecting the candidates? The starting point and the landing points will be measured, and we will have a timing to get the final score. So both the speed and the quality of the flight will be measured. Now the first kid is in position. The kid seems to be less than 10 years old. Of course, they're a primary school kid. Quite steady flight. People are very nervous. To guarantee the security of the kids, we have an assistant following the kid. They're the trainers. Already passed by 2 blue flags. That's score points. The kid is getting more nervous. We are not only selecting the champions, we are encouraging the kids to come out of the classrooms and practice their hands. They can learn from different fields. And finally, cross by the loop. This must be very difficult. The drone had a flip just now. It's also a scoring point. So, crossing through the loop must be the most difficult part of this show. You can choose yourself. You can quit this point. The parents can also be the trainers. Time up. The kid parked the drone. It's regretful for him. He seems to regret that his best abilities are not shown from the expression. Very cute. It's really a very good learning opportunity for the kids, like his mentality and his responsibility. It would be perfect if we can compete indoors, because outdoors there will be uncertainties like the wind speed. Particularly for the small kids, that would be challenging. The second flight is on. This kid seems to be even smaller. Today's activity is to promote the science. Some kids have no experience at all. So many staff are guaranteeing the safety. The kids need such stage to practice their abilities. The speed and the scores don't matter that much. What matters is to explore this new field through such learning. The full rotor's drone performance is very hot because relatively it's easier. Kids can better control the drones. For simple flight, And we will have some initial training before the competition. For the kids, even without the training, can simply control the drones. The third kid is beginning. This drone is flying fast. The show will be impacted by the weather. When the wind is strong, the speed of the flight will be different. Now, passing through the loop. How much training do we need for this part? If it's indoor, one round of training will be enough, but for outdoor, it's more challenging. As you can see, the first 3 kids failed this loop. The third kid is still trying. The loop is really difficult. We hope the kids can find their best ability. 4-rotor drones are very entertaining. The kids, through the performance, can have a goal of their aviation dream. The dream seems very close to them. We encourage more kids to be part of these activities. There will be more training for the kids later on, right? Yes, we have different trainings. Our commentators and the pilots will be there to lecture the kids. Through all sorts of courses, the kids will get more knowledge of aviation. In the future, they may be willing to dive into the aviation industry. Maybe today's candidates of this competition will be excellent pilots or designers in the future. Highly possible. They are already in this industry. Everyone has a flying dream. And now those kids have very good technology basis. Unlike our childhood, we cannot access those technologies. But today, the youngsters, the teenagers can have a very good platform. The staff are actively promoting the courses to the parents, I see. Thank you for your introduction. We look forward to more shows. The show is still on for the kids. Over 30 kids applied for the performance. You must be very happy to see the kids playing the drones. This expo is a 5A spot for patriotism education in China. We are responsible for promoting science. When the kids are here, we can help to promote more culture and scientific knowledge. Some kids, when they came back home, would try to make their own small planes. On the faces of every kid, they are showing their happiness. When we were young, there was a book called We Love Science. Now, the kids can have so many opportunities to experience science in the activities. It's a very good show. It would further boost people's patriotism. This is a girl. Very stable flight at high altitude. We give our best wishes to her. All enthusiasts today have a big festival. We remember this day, September 21st. We witnessed the heroic events in the history of aviation in China. We also learn a lot about the jet fighters series We hope through today's event, our viewers could have better knowledge of China's jet fighters. If you have the opportunity, we encourage you to come here to Shenyang to have a close contact with the jet fighters. This is our centennial dream, to build China into a strong aviation country. It's our slogan and our dream. We hope you could better support China's aviation. The competition is still on, but this is going to be the end of our live broadcasting. Thank you for your watch.